Hey everyone, it's Indy, and today we're diving into a fascinating intersection of two seemingly separate worlds: the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Disciples of Jesus. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Indy, those are about as different as Diet Dr. Pepper and Dostoevsky, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But stick with me here, because at their core, both AA and the stories of the disciples are about transformation, about grappling with our flaws, and finding a path to something greater than ourselves. We'll be exploring each step alongside one of the disciples, uncovering the surprising parallels in their journeys. Think of it like this: the 12 steps offer a roadmap to recovery, while the disciples, in their human fallibility, provide deeply relatable examples of what it means to stumble, to learn, and to ultimately embrace a life guided by something bigger. So, whether you're familiar with CA, a religious scholar, or just someone curious about the human experience, join me as we unpack these connections and discover the unexpected wisdom they hold. Step 1 of AA is a doozy: admitting powerlessness over alcohol, acknowledging that life has become unmanageable. It's about facing a brutal, often terrifying truth. It reminds me a lot of Simon Peter, the disciple who was always so sure of himself, so quick to act, so convinced he had it all figured out. Remember when Peter swore he'd never abandon Jesus, even if everyone else did? And then, not just once, but 3 times he denied even knowing Jesus? Talk about unmanageable, right? Peter's story, like step 1, reminds us that denying our struggles only digs us deeper. It's about recognizing that sometimes our best efforts to control things just blow up in our faces. And that's okay, because admitting we can't do it alone, that we need help, is not weakness. It's the first, often the hardest, step toward real change. Step 2 of AA is all about coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Now, sanity might seem a little subjective, but in the context of addiction, it's about finding a way out of the chaos, the obsession, the self-destruction. This step resonates deeply with the story of Thomas, the disciple who famously doubted Jesus' resurrection. Imagine the turmoil, the grief, the sheer impossibility of it all. Thomas needed proof, tangible evidence. He needed to see the wounds, touch the scars, to reconcile his doubt with the possibility of something miraculous. And isn't that something we grapple with too? This idea that we need to see it to believe it, to understand it fully before we can accept it. But sometimes the most profound truths lie beyond our immediate comprehension. They require a leap of faith. Now, I'm not here to preach about blind faith. What's important, both in step 2 and in Thomas's journey, is the willingness to be open, to explore the possibility of something beyond our current understanding. Thomas didn't simply reject the other disciples' experiences. He voiced his doubts, he wrestled with them, and ultimately, he opened himself up to the possibility of belief. And in that vulnerability, in that willingness to confront his doubts, he found his own path to faith. Similarly, step 2 isn't about instantly adopting someone else's belief system. It's about cultivating a belief, however small, in the possibility of healing, of change, of a power that can guide us out of the darkness. It's about taking that first, tentative step towards hope, even if we can't yet see the entire staircase. Step 3 of the 12 steps is a big one. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. This step is about surrender, about acknowledging that our way hasn't been working. It's like handing over the keys to a skilled mechanic when your metaphorical car keeps breaking down. Matthew, the tax collector, left his secure job to follow Jesus. Now, that's a serious leap of faith, right? But that's the heart of step 3, the willingness to trust in something bigger than ourselves. It's not about giving up, but about opening up. Maybe there's a different path, a better way. Often, it's in letting go that we find freedom. Surrender isn't weakness, but strength. It takes courage to admit we don't have all the answers, because the truth is, we weren't meant to do this life alone. Step 4 of the 12 steps. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Oof, this one can be tough, right? It's like cleaning out a really messy closet, the one you've been avoiding for years because you don't even want to know what's hiding back there. But just like cleaning that closet can ultimately be cathartic, so too can this step be incredibly freeing. And who better to guide us than James the Greater, often depicted as one of the more, shall we say, passionate disciples? He was quick to anger, eager for recognition, even asking Jesus to grant him a place of honor in his kingdom. Now, ambition isn't inherently bad, but unchecked ambition, well, that can lead to some not so great places. And James, through his journey with Jesus, had to confront his own flaws, his own shadow side. He had to take a good, hard look at himself and acknowledge the parts that weren't so pretty. And that's what step 4 is all about. Taking stock of our lives, our actions, our thoughts, and being honest about what we find. It's not about self-flagellation, but about self-awareness. It's about acknowledging the good, the bad, and the ugly, so we can move forward with clarity and purpose. Here's the thing, we all have shadows, those parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. But just like ignoring a leaky faucet won't make it go away, pretending our flaws don't exist won't make them disappear. In fact, it often gives them more power. Step 4 encourages us to shine a light on those shadows, to bring them out into the open, where we can examine them, understand them, and ultimately work towards healing them. It's about being compassionate with ourselves, recognizing that we're all works in progress, perfectly imperfect humans just trying to figure things out. Think of it like this. Imagine you're holding a small object in your hand, close to your face. It blocks your view, right? But when you move it further away, you can see more of what's around you. That's what step 4 helps us do. It allows us to gain perspective, to see ourselves and our lives more clearly. It's not always easy, but it's essential for growth, for healing, and for ultimately living a more authentic and meaningful life. We've reached step 5 of the 12 steps, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This step is all about vulnerability, about sharing our deepest selves with another person, and trusting that we won't be rejected. It can be terrifying, right? To lay bare our flaws, our mistakes, our deepest shames, but it's also incredibly liberating. And to illustrate this, we turn to John, often referred to as the beloved disciple. Now, John might seem like an odd choice here. He's associated with love, compassion, even writing those famous words, God is love. But John wasn't always the epitome of love and understanding. Early on, he was actually quite quick to anger, even earning the nickname Son of Thunder from Jesus. John had to learn the hard way that true love requires humility, forgiveness, and a willingness to admit when we're wrong. He had to confront his own capacity for anger, for judgment, for self-righteousness. And, in doing so, he discovered the transformative power of vulnerability. Think about a time you shared something deeply personal with someone you trusted. How did it feel? Did it make you feel exposed, vulnerable? Or did it make you feel lighter, freer, more connected? That's the power of step 5. It breaks down the walls of isolation, of shame, of secrecy. It allows us to step out of the shadows and into the light of human connection. Because the truth is, we weren't meant to carry our burdens alone. When we share our struggles with another person, when we admit our wrongs, we create space for healing, for forgiveness, for grace to enter our lives. It's like finally letting someone in after years of pretending everything's okay. It's a vulnerable act, yes, but it's also an incredibly courageous one, and it's often the first step towards true freedom and lasting change. Because in admitting our wrongs, we open ourselves up to the possibility of forgiveness, both from ourselves and from others. And that, my friends, is a powerful thing. Okay, so step 6 in the 12 steps is where we talk about becoming entirely ready to have God remove our defects of character. You know, those pesky little things we discovered back in step 4. Now, I'm not talking about a magical personality makeover here, although wouldn't that be nice? This is about willingness. It's about acknowledging that we can't fix ourselves, no matter how hard we try. And that's okay. We're human, right? Flawed and fantastic all at once. And this is where Andrew comes in. Andrew the Apostle always seemed to be bringing people to Jesus, right? He was like the ultimate networker of the disciples. But I think there's more to it than that. I think Andrew embodies this idea of being entirely ready. He was ready to step aside, to let Jesus take the lead, to let go of his own ego and let something bigger in. And that's hard, you know? Admitting we need help, especially when it comes to our deepest flaws, it takes courage. But there's also a huge sense of relief in it, at least in my experience. It's like saying, okay, I can't do this alone. I need help. And that's okay, because none of us were meant to go through this life solo. We're meant to lean on each other, to support each other, and to let a little bit of grace into our lives. So how do we become entirely ready? Well, I don't have all the answers, but I think it starts with honesty. Honesty with ourselves about what we're struggling with, and honesty with whatever higher power we believe in. It's about saying, I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to change. And sometimes that's the bravest thing we can do. Alright, so we've talked about becoming entirely ready in step 6, but now comes the action part. Step 7 is all about humbly asking for help. And you know, this step always makes me think of Philip. Philip the Apostle was a bit of a pragmatist. He wanted proof, he wanted evidence, and he wasn't afraid to ask for it. Remember that time he asked Jesus to show them the Father? Yeah, that was Philip. But here's the thing about Philip. Even with his doubts, he kept coming back to Jesus. It's about acknowledging our need for help and having the humility to ask for it. even when it feels awkward or uncomfortable. It's in those moments of humility, when we let go of our pride and admit we need support, that we open ourselves up to receiving it. And that's where the magic happens, right? We're all in this together, and sometimes we just need a little help from our friends, our family, or maybe even a higher power to get through it. Remember, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. Step 8. Oh boy, step 8. This is the one where things start to get real. We're talking about making amends, but first, we have to make a list of all the people we've harmed. And let me tell you, that list can feel pretty daunting. It's like holding up a mirror to all the ways we've messed up. But when we confront our biases, we see the humanity in everyone we've harmed. It's about acknowledging the impact of our choices and taking responsibility. It's what we do with those mistakes that truly matters. It's about taking ownership and making a conscious choice to do better. Forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others, is possible. We're all on this journey together, figuring it out as we go. So, we're at step 9, where the rubber meets the road. We've admitted our wrongs, and now it's time to make things right. This step is about action, taking those difficult steps to clean up our messes, like spilling orange juice on a friend's favorite book. Saying sorry is important, but it's not enough. You need to actually do something to fix it. Maybe you buy them a new copy or dry out each page. Action is key. James the Less, often called James the Just, shows us this. He's not flashy, but he's always serving others. Quiet service and consistent effort bring real change. Making amends isn't always about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent actions to show we're truly sorry. It's about showing up day after day, trying to be better. Healing and trust take time. There's no quick fix. It's about putting in the work even when it's hard. Sometimes making amends doesn't go as planned. Sometimes people aren't ready to forgive, and that's okay. We have to respect their boundaries. The important thing is making a genuine effort to make things right. Acknowledging the pain we've caused and taking responsibility is huge. And that, my friends, is huge. Section 2. Except when to do so would injure them or others. Sometimes making direct amends can do more harm than good. Be mindful of the potential consequences of our actions. Maybe making amends means talking to a therapist, or focusing on being a better friend without bringing up the past. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to making amends. Be thoughtful, sensitive, and guided by a desire to do what's best for everyone. Sometimes that means making direct amends, and sometimes it means finding other ways to make things right. Sometimes it means sitting with the discomfort of knowing we can't always fix everything. This idea of not causing further harm is crucial. It's easy to get caught up in our own desire to make things right. It's about ensuring our actions are truly motivated by a desire to heal. James the Less understood this deeply. He wasn't seeking attention for his good deeds. He was trying to live a life of integrity, reflecting the love and compassion he saw in Jesus. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to step back and choose the path that leads to the most healing for everyone involved. So, we've made it to step 10, which is kind of like step 4, but on a loop. Remember step 4, That searching and fearless moral inventory thing? Yeah, well, turns out it's not a one-time deal. Step 10 is about making that inventory a regular part of our lives, like flossing or, checking Twitter, except hopefully less anxiety-inducing. We're constantly growing and changing, which means we're constantly messing up in new and interesting ways. Who knew there were so many ways to be selfish or impatient or just generally kind of a jerk? It's like we're playing a video game where the difficulty level keeps increasing, except the game is life and the stakes are our own well-being and the well-being of those around us. And that's what Step 10 is all about. That continual process of checking in with ourselves, of asking, am I living in accordance with my values? Am I showing up in the world the way I want to be showing up? And if the answer is no, well, then it's time to make some adjustments. It's about being willing to course correct, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep striving to be the best versions of ourselves. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's what makes life interesting. It's what gives us the opportunity to learn and grow and become better, more compassionate, more self-aware human beings. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, by embracing our imperfections, by being willing to admit when we're wrong and to make amends, we can inspire others to do the same. And that, my friends, is a revolution worth fighting for. Hey everyone, it's Indy, and in this chapter we're diving into Step 11, which is all about connecting with a higher power through prayer and meditation. We're drawing a parallel with Thaddeus, one of the less prominent disciples, often overshadowed in the narrative. But just like Step 11 encourages a deeper connection, Thaddeus represents a yearning for deeper understanding. You see, Thaddeus, also known as Jude, is known for asking Jesus a very pointed question during the Last Supper. He wanted to understand why Jesus was revealing himself to them and not to the world. This shows a desire to go beyond the surface to understand the why behind the what. This resonates with Step 11 because it's not just about blindly asking for things. It's about cultivating a conscious contact, a deeper understanding of our higher power's will, and seeking the strength to carry it out. It's about asking those tough questions like Thaddeus, and being open to the answers. It's a process, not a destination, much like building any relationship. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to be vulnerable and open to guidance. Both Step 11 and Thaddeus' story emphasize aligning ourselves with a purpose greater than ourselves. For Thaddeus, it was seeking clarification on Jesus' teachings and mission. For those working the steps, it's about understanding and aligning with the will of their higher power. This alignment isn't about blind obedience. It's about seeking guidance and strength for the journey. It's about acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and that relying on a power greater than ourselves can provide direction and support. This step encourages us to surrender the illusion of control, which can be really tough, I know. But in that surrender, in that willingness to listen and learn, we often find clarity and strength we didn't know we had. It's about trusting that there's a plan, even when we can't see the whole picture, and that our higher power is there to guide us, just as Jesus guided Thaddeus and the other disciples. Step 12 of the AA program is all about carrying the message of recovery to others and living by the principles you've learned. It's about taking that internal transformation and letting it ripple outwards. Now, you might be wondering, how does Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus, fit into this? Well, instead of a direct parallel, Judas serves as a cautionary tale in this chapter. He represents what can happen when we don't follow through with the spiritual awakening and insights gained throughout our journey. While the other disciples went on to spread Jesus' message of love and forgiveness, Judas, despite witnessing the same miracles and hearing the same teachings, chose a different path. This reminds us that spiritual growth isn't a passive process. It requires active engagement and a commitment to living by the principles we've learned. It's a powerful reminder that transformation requires constant work and that straying from the path can have serious consequences. Step 12 emphasizes that recovery isn't just about personal transformation. It's about sharing what you've learned and supporting others. It's about recognizing that our experiences, even the difficult ones, can be a source of strength and guidance for others who are struggling. Just as the disciples went on to share Jesus' teachings, becoming beacons of hope, Step 12 encourages us to become beacons of hope in our own communities. This doesn't necessarily mean standing on a street corner preaching. It's about embodying the principles of recovery in all our interactions. It's about being there for someone who's struggling, offering a listening ear, and sharing our stories with humility and compassion. It's about demonstrating the transformative power of these steps through our actions and our willingness to be of service. Judas's story, while tragic, serves as a potent reminder of the importance of staying true to the principles we've learned and using our experiences to help others. It's about turning our pain into purpose and becoming living testaments to the power of transformation. So, we've journeyed through all 12 steps, drawing parallels with the 12 disciples, exploring their strengths, their struggles, and the lessons they learned. We've seen how Peter's impulsiveness teaches us about surrender. Thomas's doubt highlights the power of belief, and Matthew's transformation embodies the courage to change. We've reflected on the importance of self-reflection with James the Greater, vulnerability with John, and readiness with Andrew. We've explored the need for trust with Philip, acceptance with Bartholomew, and humble service with James the Less. We delved into the significance of continual alignment with Simon the Zealot, the pursuit of understanding with Thaddeus, and the cautionary tale of Judas Iscariot, reminding us of the importance of commitment and action. Each disciple, each step, offers a unique perspective on the path of spiritual growth and recovery. They remind us that it's not a linear journey but a winding path, filled with challenges and triumphs, doubts and discoveries. I hope these parallels have provided you with new perspectives on the 12 steps and the timeless wisdom they hold. Remember, whether you're working the steps or simply exploring these concepts, the journey of self-discovery and growth is an ongoing process. So, keep asking questions, keep seeking, keep connecting. And if you found this exploration insightful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Until next time, DFTBA.